by and large, connectivity, partnership, friendship, increasing trade, strong strength areas of each country, that should be exploited. And there should be no, it should not be equal and unequal. Everybody is equal. That always the countries which have a smaller economy, they will always say this because they have this little bit of apprehension about a country as big as India, which is such a large economy in the Indian Ocean.
Hello and welcome to the Gist on Strategies Global. Good evening, I'm Surya Gandadharan and welcome to another edition of The Gist. We are looking at the Indian Ocean Conference that was held in Dhaka over the weekend. It was the 6th edition of this conference and there was a fair amount of participation from a lot of countries, around 19 of them, or perhaps even more. There were quite a few heads of state, and of course, India was also present. This was in fact partly organized also by the MEA and the India Foundation. So I have with me my guest, Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, former Grey Eagle, naval aviator. Sir, good evening. Glad to have you.
Good evening, Surya. Thank you very much for digging me out from this, far land and ocean. But I'm very happy to see you and very happy to join your program.
Thank you, sir. So let's get straight to the issue at hand, sir. The Indian Ocean Conference, you were there. So this was also partly organized by the India Foundation. I mean, what's the link here? Is it a think tank now which is trying to get into the policy area? How does it work?
The Surya India Foundation has been in existence for 11 years now. It has a fair amount of traction. It's a very lean and a small organization, not many researchers, because as you know, it's a sort of self-sustaining type of organization, does not get any funding from anybody. And we try not to get any funding. However, for the events, when we organize events, then certainly some people pitch in. For example, the MEA pitched in here, mainly because if you want the heads of states and if you want the ministerial representation from so many countries, 19 countries to be precise, then without the invitation from the minister level or maybe even Prime Minister's office, it will be very, very difficult to get that. So right from inception, Surya, MEA has been sort of one of the supporters of this conference. As you mentioned, it is a 6th one, right from the first one. So it also gives the government of India, the MEA, a chance to get the views on Indian Ocean issues of all the littorals and all the countries which are connected with Indian Ocean directly or through the southern approaches. And we try and see that on the theme of the conference, what is their view? How much do they differ? Because of the point that the Indian Ocean has been the main link amongst these countries in the historical times, and we want to see how we can rekindle this and join them for more peaceful sort of Indian Ocean.
So the agenda is decided by whom in advance after consulting all the participating nations?
No, Surya, it is completely India Foundation's doing. We have a meeting. As you know, I'm on the board of trustees. So we have a meeting and we get our board of governor members, the directors, and then we coin a few themes because this is the 6th time and the theme is a little different this time. We try and avoid discussing, security all the time because, that becomes into a pure geopolitical sort of domain. But while discussing peace, then obviously some kind of security word or some kind of, what should be done to make sure there is peace. There may be one or two speakers, tend to talk about that. But the theme is just to maintain peace, prosperity and partnership for resilient sort of future, as you know the theme is.
So you were there, you were in attendance. What was the main outcomes that you consider important?
My own feeling is that it's a great opportunity for officials and non-officials to come together and look at the minds of each other as to what the officials are saying and what the non-officials are saying, because it's a mixture of these two. Apart from the main event, the main sort of speaker dais, there is also what is called we have a little bit of preliminaries or plenaries, which goes on side by side. So we had two plenaries in which the speakers of very high repute, they participate in that, and it is chaired by one of the, or maybe few of the known people who understand the oceans, who understand the geopolitics. They chair those sessions, because in the main event, it is difficult for them to be included, because it is mainly ministerial level talk, as I just mentioned. Otherwise, we have had representation from nearly 40 countries, Surya. So this is what the my take is, that it has been a great opportunity to reunite or sort of reboot the sense of togetherness in Indian Ocean, and come to know as to what difficulties do they have, what is it that we need to do as India, so that we can get more people and make this whole area, because we are one of the poorest sort of part of the world, and Indian Ocean is the least connected area in the whole world. And therefore, we feel that, connectivity with partnership of this kind, what kind of partnership we should do, how will the funding be done, and what is the difficulty in people getting funding. So once we get the whole idea, we will make a theme paper. We will come out with the compendium and the lessons learned, and then we'll share with everybody, including the Ministry of External Affairs, because they have a big stake in this, in the knowledge and in the opinions which have been expressed. And thereafter, leave it to the government agencies to do what they can do best, because they have much more input on the geopolitics than we have, Surya.
Now, I read from the media that Bangladesh had come out with an outlook on the Indo-Pacific. So, in that regard, and also looking at, say, landlocked states like Nepal, for instance, that also attended this meeting. What is that? What is it that we can draw from? Does Nepal have an IP outlook? And what about Dhaka? What did they say?
But Dhaka's is an open domain, the document which has come out, and I would say that by and large, the essence of the whole thing remains very similar. I know that we need to have better connectivity, we need to have more trade, we need to have lesser hurdles as far as the laws are concerned. And one of these laws I will talk about, which Bangladesh has and India have got over, but other countries need to have it. And then what happens to the countries who are, for example, not participating, like Myanmar was not present in that? What will happen to Myanmar? So these are some of the issues which Bangladesh had the opinion to voice. But by and large, connectivity, partnership, friendship, increasing trade, strength areas of each country, that should be exploited. And there should be no, it should not be equal and unequal. Everybody is equal. That always the countries which have a smaller economy, they will always say this, because they have this little bit of apprehension about a country as big as India, which is such a large economy in the Indian Ocean. The sense is that nobody should be dominating this whole area. That is one. Secondly, you talked about Nepal and Bhutan. Surya, I must say that it's a very good question you have thrown on me. We had a minister from Nepal, a foreign minister of Nepal, and foreign minister of Bhutan. And both of them said that, their own economy and prosperity is directly linked to the Indian Ocean. And they said that we may not be having direct access to sea, but we have had no problem so far in accessing the Indian Ocean through West Bengal and into the Bay of Bengal. And that their trade takes a lot of priority. And there has never been an occasion where, that they have had any complaint to make. So from that point of view, as you know, that India and Bangladesh are the two countries who are facilitating their seabound trade. both inward and outward. And in fact, the Bhutanese minister was very sort of firm in saying that what happens in Indian Ocean has a direct linkage to us. We may be a landlocked country, but let me tell you very frankly that Bhutan attaches quite a lot of importance to this Indian Ocean. What happens? Nepal also very similar views that we are landlocked and prosperity. We know that we have two big neighbors, but we also have a lot of our, shall I say, the aid or facilities or trade coming through the sea route because this is not the best route as far as these two countries are concerned to follow a land route, unless the trade is between Nepal and China, Nepal and India. So I think both countries realize, and the fact that their foreign ministers have come and participated and spoken, and I personally thought that the Bhutanese minister was absolutely crystal clear in his opinion. He stuck to the task of, how to have peace. He said that, yes, Indian Ocean, particularly Bay of Bengal, is reasonably quite peaceful area at the moment. And we would like to see that the adjoining sea areas are also peaceful. And the countries who have a better, shall I say, means to ensure this peace and stability, they must exercise the option for the good of everybody. Some countries also, for example, Sri Lanka, also suggested that we must have some kind of architecture where we can have economically we are tied to each other. So Sri Lanka with India, we have an FTA, but the idea which came out that maybe we can have a Indian Ocean conference next time. We can have a FTA kind of approach and see how many countries want to do FTA so that the trade can be increased. So that is one sort of outcome of this, one good outcome. Of course, we have had many other countries, which I guess that as we go along, we will mention about this.
You mentioned the concerns of smaller countries. Now, I notice Bangladesh has an outlook on the Indo-Pacific. And I presume given their long-standing ties with China, they didn't want to take the extra step. So then why has Dhaka made this step in the first place? Are they looking at opportunities here? Do they see something that may not be visible at this point? Were you able to gauge Bangladesh's thinking here?
Bangladesh, the fact remains that as far as the economy of Bangladesh is concerned, it is quite closely linked to, what the trade that they are doing with China. And they make no bones, they say about it, because it works out cheaper and the country requires those things rather than going into very high cost items, which comes from the West. But Bangladesh was quite clear that, the BIMSTEC, of which Bay of Bengal Initiative on the Economic and Technical Cooperation, in BIMSTEC, Bangladesh is the initiator of that. They are the ones who first talked about it. And then we went ahead and made this BIMSTEC. And he very clearly, the minister or the prime minister also mentioned, she said that it is making good progress, and last 10 years it had not made so much of progress. But after that, it has made a very good progress. And we also had invited the Secretary General of BIMSTEC. And he was very clear, and I thought that he was actually voicing everybody's opinion. One thing which came out was again that BIMSTEC FTA. He was saying that this will go a long way if we have a FTA. Everybody's saying that. But my sense will be that in BIMSTEC, it is quite possible that countries may be a little bit apprehensive about, getting large sort of commodity items from India and flooding their markets. So, we have earlier projected that, you make out a list as to what are your areas of strength, and we will trade only on those areas. And we will give you a list as to this is what we can do. So see that what suits you, and let's have an FTA, in a limited sense. So I think there is a way to get around this, because it's not, it may not be an all-encompassing that everything goes and everything comes. Like Bangladesh is very strong in fabrics, very strong in, apparels. Large number of big brands, they source it from Bangladesh, Marks and Spencer and Louis Vuitton, they all source it from there. So they would obviously not like anything in the textile. So that's fine. But there are many things. For example, the manufacturing sector, the machinery, the hydroelectric power. Then we are talking about construction, larger construction. Some of it is already happening. Some of it is already happening wherever they found that the terms are better with India than China, and it is more. Our system is transparent. It's not say that the Chinese systems are opaque. Without mentioning the name, they said that wherever we find we have a transparent and a predictable sort of, contract coming up, then we will go for that, which is very natural. When you are sandwiched between two big countries, big powers, big economic powers and military powers, then international relations says that hedging is a very normal thing to happen.
Yeah.
Therefore, we shouldn't be surprised that there will be many issues where we will differ, and there are many issues where we will agree. So we have to see how many agreements do we have. So I think that Bangladesh, it is very natural, and their outlook on Indo-Pacific is, it is driven by their internal sort of politics. It is also driven by the Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman's statements that he made: friends to all, enemy to none. They would like to maintain that, and that is what remains. Because I have friends. We have very large number of friends, as Bangladesh military officers and civil service officers. They do a lot of courses in India, National Defense College, Staff College. So we all have friends, and it's quite open talk. They don't mince any words. Generally, they are quite free. So I think that is what the Bangladesh opportunity. They all will. If you look at Nepal also, and then some talk is going on the boundary issue between the. He was asked a question. Bhutanese minister was asked a question about the talks which are going on. He said it very clearly that yes, talks are going on, but they are only going on for the borders which is between China and Bhutan. It has nothing to do with where three countries are involved. So he said, a foreign minister saying, so you have to accept that. Similarly, Nepal said that we know that railway line from China to here is going to be very difficult because the topography is such. So we are going ahead with the Indian railway line. So that is how.
What about India? What is it that we proposed? Any new ideas came up from us? Because I was reading some of the reports. I think Mr. Jaishankar made a standard formulation without naming China, of course, about the Indo-Pacific. And do we have any new ideas?
Well, the whole concept of this conference is that the participants, we are wanting to see what people have to say about peace, prosperity, and partnership. And Dr. Jaishankar, our honorable EM, he was very clear that we have partnership is the only way to progress as far as the maritime sector is concerned, the trade is concerned, because the seas are too vast, and one country it is not possible, and therefore maintaining peace is important. And then, of course, he, without naming China, he did mention that one has to be very careful about what happened in South China Sea, and that should not happen here. Otherwise, we are countries of still developing countries. We are not very developed. Our trade is not as much as many other countries. So I think, and he generally laid down the ground rules of India's activity in the Indo-Pacific. One thing that he said very clearly, that the Indian Ocean study should not limit itself to Indian Ocean. It should go right up to the Pacific. So that is a formulation which I heard for the first time. That let's not limit ourselves to Indian Ocean. Let's go right up to Pacific as far as the studies are concerned. Make it I guess he would have said that Indo-Pacific, is better to study. You can call it Indian Ocean Conference, but don't keep Pacific out of the ambit. I mean, that is what probably he meant. And I think we have taken that very seriously. As you know, that Australia is also a participant in the thing. Australia was also represented by a junior minister of the Foreign Office. Tim Watts was there. And By the way, they have offered to host the next Indian Ocean Conference in Australia. So he made an announcement. So I think that possibly Shankar, he's a very good thinker and a strategist. He makes his own speeches. He doesn't depend on anybody else's. So he probably has in mind that the Pacific nations also should have an option to express their opinion and form part of this larger Indian Ocean conference. Possibly, I mean, if it happens like Australia is joining, because Australia's west coast is in Indian Ocean, their east coast is in Pacific, and the southern coast is actually washed by Indian Ocean. If you look at south of peninsula, the southern Indian Ocean washes past the Indonesian archipelago and it goes right below Australia and goes where it joins the Pacific. So I think possibly he's looking at the world in a much bigger perspective than we have thought so in the India Foundation, to limit ourselves to the Indian Ocean and the littorals, which obviously includes African continent, East Coast, our definition of Indian Ocean, and the Gulf of Aden, and the Gulf, the Persian Gulf or the Arab Gulf, the Gulf as we call it. So they were there. The people were there from all the countries. So it was, I think it was, this is one point that I pick up is Indian Ocean study should also take Pacific into fold, at least for the sake of conference, and see how we have a unity of purpose.
So I noticed even countries like Somalia were present at this conference. I mean, what do they bring?
Last conference we had a Somalian minister who attended, and he made a very good presentation on what trade goes on. And he brought out the one point that he said that we don't have many skilled people, and that did result in the skill development program for specially designed for their people, because one object is also to help build capacities and capabilities to the countries who do not have these, to bring more trade and bring little more prosperity in the country. So obviously, every country needs it. Some need more and some need less. And I think Sudan probably falls in that category. And there may be parts of Sudan, but we are talking about the democratic Sudan, which is
Somalia.
Yeah. So sorry, Somalia, which is the member of the United Nations. So we deal with them, and every time there is some new issue, because the trade is not vast. They have a trade. They have trade with many countries, including India. But wherever they find difficulty, where the foreign element is more involved, and they feel that their own people can get to do the job, so we help them in building the capabilities of their people. Or if there are some equipment which are required to handle those cargo at the ports, then we help them in getting it. Either if you're manufacturing, then we do that, or then we open a credit line or a aid line, foreign aid. So those things are happening to countries which don't have the ability to afford all of them at one time. So I think there is an advantage. And for us, it is a win-win situation that you are creating a goodwill. Goodwill is a big thing to have, because at least they will, sorry, when you have some kind of times of tension, the countries where you have goodwill, they will remain absolutely neutral. They will not sort of side anybody. They will not provide any, facilities which add to those countries' ability to, wage some higher tensions against your country. So this is a good thing to happen.
So last question, and briefly, the fact that security is largely out of this conference, is that how it works?
We have had one of the conferences we dealt with security threadbare, and I think that was in either the first one or the second one. So we have taken themes have been quite different, whereas the prosperity has returned after first or the second one again, because some time has elapsed and the security situation has become a little different right now. So I am sure that as the time goes by, security can become one of the sub themes, but not the main theme of the conference. But that's not the idea really, because we want to keep it less on military issues, if you like. We want to keep more on development, on trade, on people's welfare. There's somebody suggested about, the human assistance and disaster relief. We must have a framework and structure. I think it was Sri Lankan minister who mentioned this, that we should have a structure here and everybody should pull in, and so that we can respond to the, if there are any emergencies, we can respond to. But Indian Ocean is very large, and unless everybody pitches in, and by and large, being a bigger country, being a bigger navy, the moral responsibility also lies on India, and therefore, as you know, that we are already what is called a partner of choice in the Indian Ocean as far as the navies are concerned. And navies generally, our ships, aircraft, etc., are deployed all around the Indian Ocean all the time. As you know that there is a mission-based deployment of the Navy, which keeps looking at these. And now with the Indian Ocean or Indo-Pacific maritime domain awareness having been agreed amongst the 4 Quad partners, I'm sure that gradually people will benefit. It's open to every country. We already have some 28 or 30 partners here, and there are representations. There are people posted in that MDA center. So there was also a question that, will this Quad remain a Quad, or will it become Quad plus? What happens to countries like so and so and so and so? So that was one of the questions which came up. Or will it continue to look at? So some of the answers that was given by some of our speakers, other speakers, they only piped up and they said, look, Indo-Pacific is a little bigger charter, and the benefits are expected to go to all the littoral countries in the Indo-Pacific. So that is actually a good answer, and that is how it will happen. That is how, particularly the maritime domain awareness, illegal fishing was something which was discussed quite in detail. That a lot of fishing goes on. The fishing grounds have become very less productive. So those things were discussed, and therefore people said that you should have an architecture. That is when this Indo-Pacific maritime domain awareness came up. Even our foreign minister, external affairs minister, also mentioned that maritime domain awareness is an important thing, and it is open to all countries. We would like to share it with all of you who are here, and you can decide. We already have foreign officers in the center at Gurugram, as you know. So I think there are good outcomes, and security very much willy-nilly. When you say HADR, it also covers the non-traditional security threats. You have piracy, you have human human trafficking, narcotic trafficking, and seaborne terrorism. So these are the things which will get covered in HADR. So we are talking about this there is already a framework in BIMSTEC, and I think the IORA has also spoken about it, and I think they are going to formalize it in the next big meeting that they're having. I think next year only it's likely to take place, or maybe this year. So I think gradually it will happen, because these are big decisions where countries have to consult their own cabinet. They have to have a lot of other aspects to cover. I guess everybody's got a geopolitical angle. Will this help or will it not help? So we made it very clear. The minister also made it clear that it is open to everybody. I can join the maritime domain awareness. At least the Indian Ocean part will get covered by the system that we have in India. It always gets inputs from everywhere. And after all, we have reached right up to Seychelles. We have a tie-up with Sri Lanka, Seychelles, Maldives, maybe Mauritius. They may not have access to everything, but it is quite possible to launch a satellite, an Indian Ocean satellite, which can give the access to all these countries. They have up to their 200 miles to their exclusive economic zone, but they can have it even bigger area to cover. But they don't have the capacity. You see, the capacity is not enough to counter those non-traditional threats. So that is where this architecture can help. That is the way we look at it.
That's the broader message. Admiral Sinha, as always, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for that perspective. We'll probably have to take up this issue once again, at perhaps in future conferences, perhaps even earlier. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Surya. Thank you for getting me here, and to all your viewers and listeners, my great namaskar and jai hind.
Thank you, sir. And to those of you who followed us on this conversation, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, Twitter, Thank you and good night.